Hi again, maayong hapon, PMAP CEBU. And guests, no, we would like to welcome everybody to our afternoon's webinar. I'd like to introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Michael Godinez. I'm from the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation. I have been the president of PMAP CEBU chapter for 2018 and currently your Visayas trustee representative for PMAP National. So, for most of you, kumona akong naong diri sa PMAP and I'm so proud to still represent this organization until this time. So, I think before we formally open this session, it's just but proper for us to start with prayer. So, can we play the video?
challenges of life demand that we measure up. And that's a fact IntelliCare understands and takes seriously. IntelliCare understands that the cycle of healthcare begins when you're healthy. Because we see the big picture and approach healthcare holistically, we make it possible for you to stay well, prevent illness, or catch it early on. It assures you that when you do need it, professional medical care and treatment will be available. So you can take comfort in the fact that we're managing the resources and cost of quality healthcare. Technology makes it possible for us to serve a wider base of customers online, day and night, so that we can focus on improving the numbers that really matter to us. The numbers that track your health, that drive down the cost of quality healthcare, that show you're in the best of health, so that you can strike a healthy balance in life. A balance that's critical and necessary for a life well lived, something we recognize and fully understand.
We are the leader in healthcare management because of a delicate balance we've achieved through the years. We're grounded on our core value of compassion, yet daring enough to make groundbreaking changes. We take pride in the tradition of excellence, yet always open to innovation. We're anchored in our commitment to the Filipino people, yet unfettered as we reach out to serve them better. And why do we do this? Because we believe that good, quality healthcare isn't something one simply aspires for. It is a constitutional right as inalienable as any other basic human right.
IntelliCare, your intelligent health choice.
All right. Thank you very much again, IntelliCare and PMAP CEBU for bringing us together this afternoon. And before again, no, magpalami sa tagkadiyot, before tamo to start formally the program, can I ask everyone to please be ready with your internet access, with your phone or through your laptops, no? And go to www.menti.com. So natay gamay nga mga pangutana na we would like to ask our members to please actively participate. So we can go to the menti.com. So, all right. So if you go to menti.com, so you have to enter the codes 3228719. So are we in now? Katong mga dili millennials, patabang sa tapad. So, okay. Give your company a shout out. Kini ha, this is really important kay nganhigin nato makita kung kinsa nga tong tagaan og PMAP Millennial of the Year Award katong pinakapaspas mo gamit, pero okay, sus tagana na dako na kay Innodata. We have Gothong Southern, of course, from Ramona Boitis Foundation, GMR Megawide, Kyocera, Rafi Microfinance. Ragdagan kay Gog Fans Club da na aning mga hashtag One Happy Rafi. Hi, Rafinians. Okay, more. Please give a shout out to your company so that atong makita kung kinsa ang mga organizations na nag-participate this afternoon. So, uy, CGSI, di na to kalimtan si CGSI kay mawagtangan kog trabaho. Diri. So, we have Virginia Farms. We have NKC. Of course, now I mentioned already IntelliCare. All right, so mailhan ginato ang organizations nga na ay data allowance. No, katong so all right, so we can now go to the next question, Ma'am Pinks. So more out of the 80 participants, 40 lang ang na-load. So can we move to the next slide, please? Next question, Ma'am Pinks. Okay, please answer no, please. Choose. Is your company currently going through any type of organizational realignment as a result of the pandemic? Please let us know. All right, 14. Oh. Wow. So daghan kay sure nga naa na uban wala pod, ang uban galibog pa. So 21 are saying yes. They are going through something, no? They are going through a crisis or organizational realignment because of the pandemic. For those na nag-answer no, lucky you. Pero kining nas mga still looking into it, murag kinahanglan ta mag-participate anida murag wat ta kay bawon sa hitabo sa tong organization. All right? So again, so majority of us here now are experiencing realignment. Oh, napagyod, yes. Apas pagyod no si yes, oh. All right. Now, so kini pasay ni no. This is really a quiz. This is a test of your internet speed. So mailhan gyud nato ning taas-taas og isang communication allowance sa ilang organization be. All right. Can we go for the first question, Ma'am Pinks? Kinaspasay ni ha, unhanay. When is the schedule of the upcoming PMAP CEBU Regional Conference? So kano sa ang ato ang regional conference? October 21 to 23, October 14 to 16, October 7 to 9. Oh. Time's up. So nay nakatubag. Sus na pag. All right. So just for everyone's information, our regional conference is on October 7 to 9. But we also invite you to join the annual conference on October 21 to 23. So, but unahon sa nato ato ang regional conference, ha? October 7 to 9. All right. So next question. Question number 2. All right. How many speakers do we have today? Again, I am a moderator, ha? How many speakers? See. All right. 1. Oh, finally. Mura pero dol-dol gyapon nang duha da. Dili lagi ko speaker na. All right. Next. Do we have one last question, Ma'am Pinks, no? One last question. Oh, si Beyonce. Oh, no, si Dr. Evil. Sa may gaon na ni? Si Beyonce, gyapon din number 1. All right. So now, question number 3. Murag katong na si Beyonce, murag 100 Mbps gito yung speed ito. What is the company name of our main speaker for today? Textcom, Vexcom, or Dexcom? All right. So maklaro gini nato kung kinsa gyud ang ni sign up and katong invited by the invited lang. Oh, all right. So napaginasayop, no? So murag di gyud maayo mangupya na lang gyud sayo pa. All right. So our final tally, Miss Pinks, kinsay ato ang Asinet gihapon. Si Ma'am Asinet, oy, congratulations, Ma'am Asinet. Kusog gyuday ang internet connection sa ino data. Congratulations. Lucky you, Ma'am Azi. Yes. So muna kuno ang premyo is that pwede ka manghambog nga kamoy kinapaspasan og internet access. Katong wala kasulod, pwedeng mo hatag og kanang murag request sa ilang boss kay hinay kay internet connection niya. Mo back up si PMAP kay na resulta sa ato ang survey. All right, so again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And before, as I mentioned earlier, the first question, we are actually, this afternoon's activity is a prelude, is a prequel to the major activity on October 7 to 9, the regional conference and the third Visayas Summit. So this is our 20th regional conference, and we are again inviting everyone to please join us. Before that, masugod na to si Ma'am Michelle o ang ato ang formal invitation sa atong regional conference. I'm pretty sure that we have been attending a lot of webinars na, but for those nagahi og ulo, og wag gyud kasabot, let's again review. Taga Cebu, correct katong mga taga Cebu nga gahi og ulo. Maybe we have to review again some house rules when it comes to running webinars. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, PMAP CEBU. So I think by now we are quite familiar with the webinar rules. So I think that's the next normal. So I think most of us are ready to really subscribe to the next normal and understand that most of our activities will be through online. So again, as mentioned earlier, I would like to again formally invite everyone to join us for our 20th Regional Conference and the third Visayas Summit on October 7 to 9. But the best person to actually explain to us what's in store for our 20th conference is Mr. RC himself. Dili si Ricamadas Chito, but we are inviting really the program the program chair for this year's regional conference. So I think this guy needs no further interaction. Please welcome Mr. Joviner Bataycan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Sir Mike. Good afternoon to all the attendees for this afternoon session. So thank you, Sir Mike. And well, actually, he's just being modest. Everybody can actually speak about the regional conference as of by now. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here today, this afternoon. So very quickly, I'd like to go through what's in store for you if you attend the regional conference. So this is, of course, brought to you by PMAP in cooperation with PhilInsure. And we would also like to thank our partners for this event. For this event, we have, of course, IntelliCare and Avega, the leading edge healthcare solution company, and of course, Cebu General Services Incorporated and Virginia Food Incorporated. The regional conference, I missed this one, Sir Mike, because my answer was wrong. I thought it was October 14 to 16. It's going to be happening on October 7 to 9. So in less than 2 weeks, we're going to meet again, finally, for HR Unfrozen, the power of clarity, self-mastery, and letting go. I'd like to go through our speakers. So for the opening keynote, we have Karen Davila. And for the closing keynote, we'll talk about people management in the New World Order, something to believe in. We have no less than Mr. Francis Kong. So both of them, Karen and Francis, will be opening and closing the regional conference. So it's going to happen on October 7th. That's going to be at 1 p.m. until 5:30. And day 2 will be at 8 a.m. to 12 noon. And then day 3 will be from 1 p.m. again to about 6 p.m. So let's go to the plenary speakers. Opening our plenary 1 is going to be Mr. Daly. He will talk about how do we attract people still, because people are now moving about and they have a different taste of what they want. For example, on top of their list will be opportunities to work from home as often as they can. So the workplace has changed. So that's our first speaker, plenary 1, Daily, the fourth wall. And from daily, let's go to weekly. That's me. I'll be talking about the virtually early milestoning. How do you crisis-proof your HR career? This is a workshop that's going to happen very early in the morning at 8 a.m. on day 2. We're going to talk about how do we protect ourselves from the drastic changes in HR management so that you can actually still sustain your career, especially in people management. Plenary 3 is from Malaysia. I know a lot of you probably were students of his before, so Frederick Balls will be talking about mindfulness. It's a challenge for all of us right now because to a certain extent, we worry about so many things. We worry about this afternoon, we worry about tomorrow, we worry about December, for example. But mindfulness hopefully will tackle the science behind staying in the here and now. It's so important, and that actually is connected with gratitude and being happy that we're all here. We're really, and I hope you're paying attention right now because we have a wonderful speaker up next. So plenary 3, mindfulness, the ultimate battle to stay in the here and now. Our fourth plenary speaker is a classmate of Frederick Balls as well, and my classmate as well. So batch 2000, Sir Mike, right? Minchu Dicena, she is now the assistant senior vice president for hospital operations at Chongo Hospital, recently promoted. And she's going to talk about people engagement in the time of masks and physical distancing. We're worried about how to connect the people with sincerity and clarity despite all those physical barriers around us. She'll talk about those things. Plenary 5 is an expert in external customer relations. Nikki Abilia is actually from Rada Consultancy. She's very good with external customer experience. Now she's going to tailor fit external customer relations with internal customer relations because we really need to fix. They're saying that for companies to survive through the pandemic, employees first, customers next. So that's reimagining internal customer experience, an urgent HR domain. Plenary 6 is with Drew Fernandez, the Coca-Cola company, and he will be talking about leadership, why the remote control is malfunctioning in the post-pandemic workplace. For those of us who are trying to digitalize control, it's not going to work because we really have to trust our employees that they're working. I've heard about horror stories about employees underpaying people just because they could not prove that they're actually working from home, and that's a tragic case. So this is very important. The remote control is not going to function as efficiently as you want. And that's why part of the concept of HR Unfrozen is letting go. The virtual fellowship is quite exciting because it's actually a team activity. And the question is, does your team have what it takes? And if you're familiar with The Voice, wherein they would audition for singing parts here, teams are actually going to audition for team assignments. And for that, we have a very impressive lineup of speakers or panelists for the blind audition for talents. Now here, you will all be grouped randomly, and you will be assigned groups, and our judges will ask for teams. For example, they want to hire the best engagement team. They will give you a situation and you will have to respond. But this time, you will have to turn off your video. The key here is to project confidence through your voice, the clarity of your answers as well. So that's going to be fun. Our panelists, of course, Sir Michael Godinez, he's one of the best in terms of talent management. He can really spot on the talent. Of course, he's from RAFI. We also have with us our image and brand consulting expert, Ms. Julia Robilios from Manila, and former president of PMAP National, Joseph Francis Rebustilio, who's also into management consulting. These triumvirate will actually be responsible for selecting the best team with the best talents. Have you heard of the term woke? Well, HR Woke is our HR forum, and woke, by the way, is a term popularized in the US, wherein it says, if you're not woke, then you're not actually aware of social issues. And in people management, we have to be, because our role is critical in terms of managing and responding to issues about social transformation. There are 4 areas that our panelists will be speaking about, and they will be talking about areas, for example, in the unemployment cases in the Philippines right now. They will talk about unemployment. They will also talk about family preparedness. They will also talk about, they will cover this as well, employee activism. A lot of our employees are very active right now in social issues. And number 4, how can we influence our local government units into helping us, especially the private sector, into responding with the kind of expectations that we have right now. Our panelists, by the way, we have from Timex Philippines, Santana Krishnan Vaideswaran. We also have with us the Vice President of PMAP National, Angelina Muki from FINMA. We also have with us Mr. Christopher Kamba of Avoidance Equity Ventures Incorporated. We will also be joined by the President of Palsco National and Executive Justice Services Incorporated, CEO Rhoda Castro Caliwara, and the 4 will actually be moderated by no less than Sir Bobot Kodoy of Seda Hotel. That's a very impressive lineup, don't you think so? And here's the thing. For all of you who are already registered, please expect the Toteful bag to be on its way to you starting September 25. Your Toteful bag will contain a wellness kit and a copy of this book, Finding Mr. HRD. It's going to be on your way starting September 25. If you're near Cebu, you're going to probably receive that on the same day. So for those of you who have registered, please expect that. For those of you who have not registered, we are giving so many things for you, not just learning, but also very important tokens. And finally, for those of you who are asking, we received an order from DTI that there is a price freeze on all commodities. So the good news is that we're going to stick to 2,005 for your registration. So it's the frozen rate of 2,500. So please register. You don't have any more excuses. It's a worthy investment. And tell your boss, during times of crisis, we never stop learning. Thank you so much once again. That's RC20, HR Unfrozen. Thank you, Sir Mike. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Sir Jobs. Wow, that was impressive. I mean, knowing that Sir Jovenir is also one of the speakers for that conference, so I think it's really worth checking out. And for those who haven't registered yet, please register. So, kasi mahotdan mo tong libro ni Sir Jobs. No, I have read the book. At first, I was afraid. Then I was petrified. Keep thinking, I could never live without that by my side. So, anyways, that book is really something. I think Mr. HRD is a very interesting twist as to how we are viewed, no, by our colleagues in the organization. So I hope we will be able to share this experience or this expertise of Sir Jobs also. When you join RC20, you get a copy of the book. And of course, that with a esteemed lineup of speakers for that event. I hope everybody can join us. You can bring in as many as you can, no, sa inyong organization because it's only 2,500, no. Actually, si Ma'am Grace, atong presidente, ang nakadawat sa freeze order from DTI, and we were visited by DOH also nga. We were given the clearance na we're okay to go sa ato ang conference, no. So, anyways, okay, now let's get the ball rolling. Are you ready for this? Huh? In Rafi, we always ask, handa na ba kayo? The answer is, oo, syempre. So let me see some thumbs up or some comments from our participants if you're ready. Come on, thumbs up, man. Ready? So, pas-pas yun kay ni si Mama Sinet. Oh, wow. Oo, syempre, right? Okay. Anyways, to get into the meat of this afternoon's discussion, our esteemed speaker for this afternoon session is actually a well-respected HR professional, especially in PMAP National. In fact, she was our PMAP National President for 2018. I was lucky to be the president of PMAP Cebu during that time and was mentored by her. And she is currently the regional HR director for Asia Pacific for Dexcom Manila, a company known for to have built a culture of malasakit. I mean, this is really interesting. Maybe you can ask her later on as to this culture of malasakit. A company that focuses on people rather than numbers. And most importantly, she was the ex-girlfriend of Matteo Godicelli. So she should really like for me to mention that. Fellow PMAppers, one of my PMAP, idols. She's one of the when she speaks, really I listen. So I'm asking everyone to please give us the next 45 minutes to please listen to her and be inspired. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Michelle Cordero Garcia.
Hi everyone, magandang hapon po. Grabe Michael, bigla akong napangiti nung binanggit mo si Matteo Godicelli. So,
alam ko po yun.
oh, napaaga nga yung pag-open ko ng video kasi nung binanggit mo siya, sabi ko, ay, oo. So, magandang hapon. PMAP Cebu, I'm so happy to be back here. Of course, not physically, but sabi ko nga sa kanila kanina, if only there's no pandemic, nandyan po ako. And it's always, a pleasure for me to actually visit Cebu and be with all of you. So allow me to, share with you some of the things, I experienced personally as an HR practitioner in my organization, during and after. Yung after kasi parang siguro proactively we're already imagining what are the realignment that we need to do as an organization. In fact, realignment is a very powerful word because we've been realigning since day one of all of us being on quarantine. And I'll share that experience with you. And sometimes I look back because even prior to this pandemic, I remember 2018, 2017, even years before that, we've been talking about the future of work, disruptions, innovations. And I recall there were numerous conferences and invitations for me to talk and discuss about disruptions in HR. And today we're talking about exactly the same things, right? Disruptions and how do we realign after this crisis. It's just that probably it's a different context, different angle, because all the while we thought the disruption is that technologies, right? I don't think not I don't think somebody expected na the biggest disruption pala is health related or a pandemic. And I would always say nga this situation that we are all in right now, for me COVID is the great reset. And what do I mean by that? Um sometime mid March, when everything started to change because we were forced to be on quarantine. um Days before that, we would have never expected that we will be able to operate in the same way that we are operating right now overnight. And I say literally overnight. In our organization, Dexcom, that weekend before the quarantine was announced, we were actually preparing to safeguard and make our office safe and secure. If you will all remember, when the IATF guidelines was released, iba yung guidelines niya, and then after a day, they changed it again. And I think during that week, there were several revisions to the guidelines, which made it very, very confusing to a lot of leaders and organizations. Na up to the last revision, I remember it was just a day or 2 days before the deadline that we were told, all right, nobody is allowed to be on site. And it was very it was an uncharted situation for us, because just imagine we had everybody in the office and telling them, guys, go home, take your desktops with you because we don't know when we can all come back on site. We'll reach out to you, we'll provide you support on internet, so on and so forth. And that very day, our employees were going home, bit-bit talaga nila yung kanilang desktops, monitors. We help book them, taxis, van, everything. That looking back, if there's no pandemic, I don't think we would allow our employees to do that, right? Because there are procedures, there are protocols to even dismantling assets in the organization, right? But during that time, ang bilis, everything was so fast. Everything was actually, sige, remove muna, wala mo ng policy na ganito. Go ahead, just set up and make sure that you can access work from wherever you are. And if you remember also, if we look back, March, April, that was I think, the peak of this entire thing for most organizations. Before COVID, as individuals, we were so used to being with one another. We do our meetings together, we eat together. Pag napapagod ka sa office, you go to the pantry and you'll see your peers, your colleagues are there. You get to share stories, you get to brainstorm together. You get to, namimiss ko magpunta sa boardroom and brainstorm and write in the whiteboard and just let people interact together. So that was before COVID, right? And during that time, March, April, alam po natin yan, that's usually the period for summer outing. So all the plans for summer outing, team building, Q1 review, Q2 preparations and planning, all gone, right? And for some organizations, ano din yan, mga sports fest activities because it's summer. So all of those abruptly, drastically gone, changed. Malls, department stores, we were not even able to do the things we've used to do. Just simple visit to the theater, cinemas, yung ating pagsamba, even as simple as going to the barber or to the salon. And nung una, the first 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, parang sige, okay pa. People were not yet feeling the difference. Medyo iba yung focus. The focus was really more understanding what COVID is all about. Yung setup nila sa bahay about work, so on and so forth. And people were very hopeful that after a month, we will all be able to go back to the office. But, it dragged on. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and now we are on our sixth or seventh month, right? And if you look at it, ano yung nangyayari ba during this period? And these are the things that I call real disruptions, right? So it's not the technology, it's not the products and services of the organization, but the things being experienced by the people. And ano yung mga experiences na yon the last 6 months, if I may cover from day one of March, right? People are confused. We don't know what COVID is all about. Bakit tumataas yung numbers? How come other countries are doing better? How come we're not doing better? Totoo ba na yung mask is enough to protect ourselves? Is this true? Is this not true? What's the real deal about this pandemic? And at the same time, we're getting news about organizations being worried if they can sustain the situation. In fairness to most organization, I think most organizations really tried to hang on during the first 3 months. But towards the end of the third month, people were starting to discuss about sustainability, like, up to when and where can we support our employees and sustain this kind of operations? Because nakikita na natin the roller coaster ride of, walang revenue, walang operations, limited yung operations, and, there's just so much uncertainty, confusion, um, things are not clear. And so, it was chaotic, if I may say, and also very, very, very disruptive the past 6 months. And ano yung naging effect niya? The effect, for some people, they were able to manage the situation. They were able to set up remote work, working from home. Others were able to continue working on site in their respective offices with very, very detailed ways of how to ensure safety and also security in the workplace. Uh, there were some people, unfortunately, who had to either shift careers, change jobs, enter into entrepreneurship. May mga kasama tayo from other countries who went home because they also lost their opportunities, so on and so forth. So again, it was an additional chaos or disruption. But if you look at it, again, it's not about the disruptions that we used to talk about. And before we said, it's AI, it's data science, it's robotics, it's all of these things. But now, totally huge disruption, but not about those things. And if we reflect, we begin to ask ourselves, right? How did organizations manage those kinds of disruptions and risks? Because there were risks, a lot of risks that goes with changing the way how we do our work. And what is the biggest change in how we do our work? I suppose many of you will be able to relate that working from home is actually one of the biggest disruption that happened during this pandemic. And I would always would like to categorize, take note, working from home in a from a developed country is very, very different from working from home in a Filipino home. My organization is into healthcare, and therefore our operations is very much into data privacy because we need to comply with certain health information policies and practices and standards. So just imagine, how can our employees ensure that when they do their work, when they're talking to our patients, that they are able to maintain the confidentiality? And I'm sure in your respective organizations, you also have some, level of data privacy. You don't want strangers to hear about anong nangyayari sa opisina, anong pinag-uusapan, kamusta ang financial strategies, so on and so forth. But this is the reality of working from home and from a Filipino home. A typical Filipino home would look like to be, very homey, maraming nakatira dyan. And again, let's be real and let's not sugarcoat, the conditions inside the Filipino home is very, very different when you are working in the office, right? So let's take, for example, what's happening inside the Filipino home. Alam po natin yan. Kultura po natin na tayo ay mahilig talagang kumain ng sabay-sabay. Okay? This is my favorite example because I would always say, and I would be asked, bakit naman siya big deal? Eh, di ba sa office, sabay-sabay din naman tayo kumakain. Yes, that's true. But look at the profile of your employees. In our case, our employee profiles are very young. Their average age would be around, 25, 26. So, and I'm sure 25, 26, nako po, kami po ay 97% single ang aming mga employees. So very young, single, likely still living with their parents. If not with their parents, living with their relatives or with their guardians. At alam po natin, kultura nating mga Pilipino, kapag oras ng kain, dapat sabay-sabay. Alright? So just imagine everybody gathered in the same room, in the same home where people are likely working. Why? Because our homes are usually, not all, but generally usually designed like an open space. 'Di ba? Ang mga bahay po natin is nandyan yung sala, nandyan yung kusina. The bedroom is very, very near the common areas. And we live with relatives. We live with people who are dear to us. And sometimes, kahit hindi yan nakatira sa ating bahay, they live nearby. They come and visit, they stay, and we like being together. That's part of who we are as Filipinos. And just imagine if you are working from home and your environment is like this, will you be able to concentrate? Will you be able to actually safeguard, data privacy or confidentiality, right? And sometimes people will say, "Oh, di dun ka sa bedroom, stay in the room." Yeah, which is also an option. But again, in reality, a lot of our bedrooms we share with a sibling or with a friend. And normally, bihira po, or siguro hindi naman din bihira, but before the pandemic, I think our bedrooms normally wala po yung desk or wala siyang office table or chair. So normally people don't have the proper furniture for them to be able to comfortably work from home or from the bedroom, right? So we experience that, and that is why, for example, in our organization, we really allowed people to reimburse for chairs and tables because on the third month we realized, okay, nahihirapan sila because they're not ergonomically seated and positioned when they're working from home. So there are those challenges that affected the productivity and affected the physical well-being and eventually the mental well-being of our employees, right? Mentally stressful, especially if you are in the middle of a meeting, tapos bigla pong mawawala ang internet or magfa-fluctuate or bigla mag-freeze and, and you are presenting in a very important meeting. Very, very stressful, right? So, and that's also part of the reality of working from a Filipino home. Plus all other, special circumstances. Buti nga po ngayon medyo malamig na ang panahon. But remember during the first 3 months, 3 or 4 months, grabe because that was summer. And imagine, hindi po lahat ng bahay sa Pilipinas may aircon, right? And that was the time I remember I was getting a lot of messages even from our employees saying, namimiss namin ang aircon sa office, right? Now, probably we're smiling right now just looking at all of these examples, but why am I bringing them up? Because these are simple day-to-day examples that sometimes we need to ask ourselves, kamusta yung ating mga empleyado who are working from home? Are they productive enough? Are they comfortable? Are they efficient? Are they effective? Hindi ba sila nadidisrupt when they're working and being surrounded by relatives or family members, so on and so forth? What's the impact of all of those to their physical health, to their mental health, to their emotional health, right? And right now, as employers, as leaders, for some reason, it's becoming a very, very important topic that we need to be discussing amongst us when we talk about our employees. Siguro prior to pandemic, hindi masyado, but right now, it's very important for us to talk about those things. Now, we are still in COVID. We're still in the pandemic, and we're now entering the second half of a 12-month cycle. And, you know, if you look around, nagko-compile yung situations because at the beginning, we were just curious and the focus was only about how do we make it work inside the organization and inside the home. How do we make sure that our employees remain focused and productive? But lately, there has been a lot of things happening outside the home and outside the office. And earlier, Juvenir mentioned about, all of this social awareness. A lot of people right now are very much socially engaged, involved. They participate in very critical important discussions happening with the government, ABS-CBN, PhilHealth, ngayon naman po pinag-uusapan internet. Lahat, di ba? We're very engaged because we realize it concerns us, right? It concerns us. And hindi lang yan sa Philippines. If you're familiar and trying to monitor also other news, ang dami ding nangyayari in other, in other parts of the world, right? The fire in California, the increasing number of pandemic in Asia, the new strain of COVID, and they say now there's this new virus again that is trying to, you know, um, control, but hopefully wag naman po another kind of virus that's emerging within the region. So all of these things are happening, compounding, right? And it's affecting every individual in our organization. And even outside our organization, sa bahay na lang po natin. It's becoming a very, very emotional working environment. And the emotions is not only coming from the emotions being felt by our employees, Pero 'di ba po tayo, kapag ka po ang isa nating kamag-anak, kaibigan, or kakilala is undergoing emotional challenges, we also get affected, right? So even if we are doing okay, even if we are in a much better position, once somebody important to us is affected, unfortunately, by this pandemic, we get affected too, right? So just imagine gaano kadami at gaano kabigat 'yun. And I always like observing others, even prior to, before pandemic. I always, after office, wala, lalabas lang ako ng office. I'll walk around, areas near the office, probably sit down in a coffee shop, and then I just look at people. I observe them. I'm always amazed with what people do, ano yung pinag-uusapan nila, ano yung reactions ng mukha, etc. And now I realize I'm also doing it. Hindi nga lang physically, but I'm trying to look at social media, anong ginagawa ng mga tao, anong pinopost, etc. And I try to, you know, relate it to what's happening. And my realization is that Filipinos talaga are very resilient. We're very, very good in coping with difficult challenges. Sabi nga nila, di ba, the worst of times brings out the best in people. And I think we're doing a good job there as a country. Not easy, but I think we're doing a good job. I don't know how observant and familiar you are with what's happening in the social media community, but there's a lot of things that I think people are doing just so they're able to cope up. Number one, they stay connected. Again, Zoom, social media, go to webinars, Messenger, Viber, everything. And people post, diba? They post. In fact, uh, before the pandemic, our family would only have a quarterly reunion. Ngayon po, every Sunday kami ang nagre-reunion via Zoom, right? So via Zoom. But again, people do their best to stay connected. A lot of people are going back to basics. Yan yung mga plantita, plantito, baka po marami dito. But I'm always amazed at how people now are enjoying planting or growing plants na hindi naman siguro natin masyadong na-appreciate before when we were so busy going to the office. Ngayon, people are just, they appreciate the simple, small things, and that's beautiful, right? That's beautiful. Pati yung yung ano tawag na, yung water plant, tawag ko po kasi doon water plant, but I realize ang tawag pala is potos. I think that's a kind of a plant na binibenta siya online. Mahal siya. Sabi ko, ba't siya binibenta? Eh, nandyan lang siya sa paligid, pipitas ka, lagay mo sa water, tutubo yan, ganyan. But again, people are rediscovering nature. They're rediscovering, going back to basics. If you're also familiar, there are these now communities. They're called barter communities. And I'm also amazed at the spirit of bayanihan that's happening inside those communities. So barter, if you're not familiar, actually sa social media po yan. Somebody, kung meron siyang extrang gamit at hindi naman niya ginagamit, ipopost niya yan sa social media, sasabihin niya, barter for, I don't know, for example, I have a t-shirt, ito yung itsura niya, I'd like to barter for, 1 dozen of eggs. And people will reply, oh, sige, mine. Okay, so tas magbabarter sila. So magmi-meet sila or ipapadala nila, then they exchange items. Not money, but items. So again, going back to basics, because traditionally, ganun naman talaga nagsimula ang trade. But what I really appreciate from that is how people now are willing to give up their material possessions in exchange for something that's important to them. And how others are actually willing to exchange so that they're able to help and at the same time gain from the transaction. And in the process, they become acquaintance or friends and they keep that relationship. Marami din pong nagnenegosyo ngayon ng mga home-cooked meals. And, there was this community that I joined na there's this person na pinagmalaki talaga niya na recipe pa to ng lola ko. Hindi ko to niluluto before because, we're all busy working from the office. Pero ngayon, niluto niya and masarap and she wants to share it with everybody. So, binibenta niya dun sa community. And again, simple things we ignored, now we are appreciating. And for me, these are examples of how people are coping with the disruptions. And again, a lot of things we're doing to try and relieve the normal. We continue to say our prayers, we continue to hear mass. Even in social media, I really like that, pagbukas mo ng social media, ang daming online masses available. And people are really watching and attending them. So we try to remain, very productive, normal, and I think these are ways of us coping. And another way of coping is you will notice that a lot of people are actually helping. And people now are very socially aware, socially involved, and they really, really would like to be always part of a cause. And that's beautiful, right? Ironic that I'm saying it's beautiful, but for me, if yan ang naging effect ng pandemic to us, then sige. Sometimes I tell myself, maybe we are in a country or worldwide recollection, we're being forced to reflect, appreciate the simple things, go back to basics, and stay at home, stay and be with your families, watch your kids do school, help them do their assignments, be with your parents, take care of your parents. You're forced to spend time with your siblings, you're forced to spend time with your relatives, so on and so forth. And yes, that's part of coping, right? But still, the reality is, again, very, very emotional for everybody. And for leaders in the organization, you begin to also ask yourself, what are the risks of leading under emotional distress? What's the difference between leading an organization and trying to motivate and engage people versus leading an organization and making sure that people are mentally, emotionally okay? That's huge difference, right? And again, another example of great disruption for leaders, because I don't think a lot of leaders feel comfortable leading using emotions. Mas sanay tayo intellectual or strategic, ganyan. But now, I, I'm sure you've experienced at some point in time, no amount of strategy, no amount of policy ang pwede mong ipantapat kapag ang empleyado mo ay umiiyak sa iyong harap because your family is going through a lot, right? Now, post-COVID, all right, when all of these things start to get better, babalik pa ba tayo to how we were last year? I don't think so. I think people realized a lot of good benefits of being in this work arrangement that we have right now. I think a lot of organizations also realize that there are actually some things that we can do that we never imagined we could have done kung hindi natin na-experience si pandemic. However, there are three things that we need to make sure we start to review, plan for, and realign as an organization as we prepare for the, hindi ko na nga po tinatawag to na new normal. Kasi yung new normal is already the normal. So, the next normal. So, post-COVID, are you ready for the next normal? And, let's look at the workplace, and the workforce. So, the work, we have to start imagining as early as now what part of our work is really mission critical. And why am I highlighting this? Because I think if we will continue to be in a situation wherein it's unpredictable, we would want as an organization that our people focus on the mission critical activities of our organization. And again, it's going back to basics. It's always going back to ano bang mission ng ating organization? What's most important for us as an organization? So it's also revisiting what is the purpose of the organization. It's not the vision and it's not the financial objective, but it's really more of why was in the first place your business was put up. What's the mission critical work and positions, activities that your employees must continue to do despite all of these uncertainties happening? Second is what kind of work will have to continue because it's value adding, not to the business, but both to the business and at the same time to the people that you serve, right? To your customers, to your stakeholders. Using online delivery, if you are in a consumer goods type of business, then maybe you will have to revisit, rethink online platforms that will help you deliver your business. If you're not yet doing it right now, looks like this is already the way to do it and this is the way to go. So, make sure that your technology, your processes, your tools are all aligned when people go back and try to resume and the next normal post-COVID. We also have to make sure that everything is deliverable, not by the hours, but by result. And what do I mean by that? When our employees started to work from home, I remember the first question our supervisors ask us is, how do we know if they're working? How do we know na hindi sila late? Paano natin malaman kung di sila nag-undertime? 'Di ba? So, if you look at it, I don't think measuring people by the hours they spend is the right way of doing it. I think it's all about measuring the output, measuring the results, regardless of the hours spent. Mahaba or kaunti, it doesn't matter. What's important is people were able to deliver the result. And therefore, we now need to make sure that we realign the way we measure performance of our employees and also the way we measure their productivity. The other set of activities that you need to make sure that we revisit and realign is the workplace. If you envision your people going back to their respective offices or organizations, there's now this what we call the 6 feet office. And there's a very good video in YouTube, just search about it. The 6 feet office is, we need to reconfigure our workplaces. Even tapos na po ang pandemic, I think people are more conscious now about social distancing and about their health and safety. And the model now is we need to reconfigure our workplace to make sure that there's enough distance or density in the office so that people will have that space in between when they work. We need to also realign how the different work arrangements are working for our employees and our business. And it's now hybrid. What do I mean by hybrid? A lot of discussions now are uh, allowing employees to actually have a mix of work from home and working in the office. Like, if things get better, probably some employees will work from home twice a week, 3 days a week will go to the office, or probably once a week work from home, 4 days in the office, or vice versa. 4 days work from home, 1 day in the office, so on and so forth. So it's hybrid. It's hybrid, and again, people will look at it because number one, for their safety and security, and number two, once you reconfigure your office, kung dati kasya ang 100 sa loob ng office, baka po after the reconfiguration and realignment of the floor plan, 50 na lang at any point in time. And therefore, you need to schedule people going to the office. And it will also change the way you assign your seats and tables, right? Kung dati 1:1, I have my own desk, I have my own table, baka maiiba ng kaunti. And maybe, a realignment there is assigning a hoteling type of work arrangements wherein clean desk policy, 5S, first come, first serve. Pag pumasok ka, bakante yung upuan, dyan ka uupo. No more, this is my desk, this is my work area, so on and so forth. Because if people will reconfigure their workplaces, space will be very, very valuable, right? So people will have to share space with their colleagues. And again, remote work is not necessarily working from home. If we are now seeing that people can effectively deliver while working from home, then there's nothing stopping us from allowing them to actually just work elsewhere. Meaning, if the office is in Taguig and I happen to actually live in Parañaque, and right now I am working from Parañaque, if later on the company will say, oh sige, pwede na work from home, I can actually go back. If I'm from Cebu, I can go back home to Cebu, do my work in Cebu while my office is in Taguig. Doesn't matter, right? So those things we have to be ready kasi baka po may mga policies that we need to realign as we see those changes happening in the workplace. And then the last is the workforce, yung mga tao natin, our people. What are the things that we need to do to realign them to the next normal? And again, it's all about competencies, right? We need to make sure that they have very strong competencies on learning on the fly. And that means they have to learn things as they do it. And this applies to everybody, to all of us. This COVID, I will bet you've made decisions, many decisions that you've done for the first time, because a lot of things that happened recently is really unprecedented, right? Staying focused despite this so many things happening is also very critical, especially if you are a leader. uh, Again, even if there's the pandemic and we want some semblance of stability and consistency, the reality still is change is constant, and we will continue to be expected to be creating change and not just managing it. um, People will expect to be empowered, and that's tricky because empowering people when you're working with them physically face to face is very different when you are empowering something na hindi mo nakikita, hindi mo kasama, hindi mo alam kung anong ginagawa. And it will all boil down to trust. And the question is, tayo, HR, leaders, are we willing to trust 100% our employees that they will deliver and do a good job even if they're not being watched? And for me, that's not just realignment in terms of process or policy, but it's an individual realignment of values and mindset, particularly of leadership, right? We cannot just change the work and the workplace without changing and realigning the mindset of the leaders. If we expect people and if we will allow them to work from home, for example, then we need to change the mindset and learn to trust them and measure performance not by the hour, but by the results. Communication and interpersonal awareness, very, very critical nowadays. And again, we need to always make sure and calibrate that people are communicating properly with one another. Kasi iba yung communication of face-to-face versus online. And fortunately, some people are comfortable doing video on during online. But most people, most employees, hindi. They close the video, and that adds to the concern, right? Because you don't see the nonverbal cues. And sometimes they don't talk, especially kung group meetings yan. So we have to make sure that we know how to also realign strategies on how to properly communicate with our employees. And the last two, very, very critical. As leaders, one of the competencies that I think we need to recalibrate and realign is on sense making. As leaders, as HR, we need to be able to make sure that we're able to make people understand what's going on. We need to be able to help them make good sense out of the chaotic um, incidents happening around them, because that's the least that we can do to give them peace of mind that things will be okay. And that's not an easy way to communicate. But still, we need to align our mindset, our skills, and competency so that we're able to deliver that to our people. And in the process, we become an influential leader to our subordinates. Right? Now, all of these things, sometimes I think about ano pa ba yung mga kailangan nating i-realign. Not necessarily post-COVID, but even right now, di ba, that we're still on pandemic. And I would summarize them into three things. One is, we need to really continuously think about, changes in people policies, because policies all of a sudden became outdated uh, overnight, right? So look at your policies, check your policies. Are they still applicable? Will they still be enablers to the people, or baka naman barrier na sila to the productivity and success of our employees? We have to realign how we manage our teams, because managing a virtual team and a remote team is very different from managing a team physically with you, staying with you na nakikita mo. And the last one is group dynamics. How do we make sure that people feel comfortable collaborating, communicating, interacting with one another, even if they're not seeing one another anymore, and everything mostly is online, right? So these are areas again that we need to think about, that we need to realign. And again, if we reflect as individual leaders and HR practitioners, we also need to check our skills, our competencies, our beliefs, and our attitude on certain things. And there was a time wherein I was asking myself, pareho pa ba yung competencies expected from an HR person like me in managing people in this time of pandemic? And I realized, yeah, the competencies are the same, but the intent and the speed, gaano mo kabilis ginagamit yung competencies, is the thing that's most important. Kasi the competency is the same, but people now are expected to be able to apply and use those competencies instantaneously na halos parang di ka na nag-isip kasi nga ang bilis-bilis na mga pangyayari. And I think that's another thing that we need to also make sure we consider in the realignment of leadership competencies within our organization. I also noticed that for the past 6 months, if I will recap all of these, competencies, I would summarize them into three clusters. One is being humane, being agile, and being through. Um, Being humane is making sure that a clear strategy focused on people is very, very essential now to effectively leading in today's uncertain times. Now more than ever is the time for leaders like us to lead for the safety and well-being of our people. Di ba ngayon parang ang laging priorities, safe ba? Safe ba sa mga empleyado? Okay na ba? Will they be okay? And I think that's the right question to ask, right? As leaders, we have to first and foremost always make sure our people will be safe. The next is, agility. And that is, we have to be courageous and help drive and enable organizations to rapidly adapt to the market and environmental changes in a very productive and cost-effective ways, while keeping balance between people and other stakeholders and keeping the productivity of the organization intact. Now, tricky kasi may pandemic, and then you're expected to still deliver very quickly business, etc., but that's the reality, that's the situation that we are all in right now. And lastly, I think it's very important for us to stay true to our values, corporate values and individual values, and guide others to lead with character and integrity. um, Mahirap po ang buhay for some people nowadays. And sabi nila, di ba, pagka mahirap ang buhay, people are easily tempted to do things that are not necessarily right. And therefore, we don't want to reach that point wherein people will do wrong kasi nahihirapan sila. As leaders, I think it's very, very important for us to make sure that we keep the core values and the personal values of people intact. And if there are interventions or programs that we need to prioritize to make sure that we continuously remain as good human beings in this time of pandemic, then let's invest on those and let's do that. So, three competencies, di ba? Pagiging makatao, pagiging maagap, at pagiging matapat. In this unprecedented and continuously unfolding time of uncertainty, hindi pa po natatapos continuously, di ba? Continuously unfolding time of uncertainty. It's not only what we do as leaders, but equally how and why we do it that matters. Regardless of anong program po ang ginagawa ninyo in your organizations, anong strategy, anong priorities, it may work for you, it may not work for the others, doesn't matter. What's important is in your own organization, you know exactly why you're doing it, and you know that you're doing it because it's the right thing to do, right? So how we lead today will leave a legacy over the longer term. Sabi nila, right now, this period in our lifetime is a moment that matter. Whatever we do today as a person, as an organization, as a leader will leave a mark. It will leave a legacy. And therefore, kung ganun lang din naman ang sitwasyon, then might as well make sure that we are doing everything in our part, in our power to be human-centered. And let's be very, very purposeful. And for me, again, it's doing our work, doing our business, managing this disruption, and doing the alignment ng may pagmamalasakit not only to our employees, pero sa ating bayan, sa ating kapwa, at sa ating pamilya. So all of these things, pagiging makatao, maagap, matapat, I hope we will be able to see the connection that at the end of the day, it's all about, doing our work with malasakit towards others, because for me that's the most critical and that's the most right and beautiful thing that we can do in order for us to manage this disruption at lalabas po tayo sa disruption na ito ng buong buo ang ating pagkatao. So I hope that has been helpful, and I hope that was able to give you some insights on how to manage the disruption and how we will realign not only in business but also as individual human beings. Salamat po.
Thank you, Ma'am Michelle. Wow, that was so that learning session was so full. No, honestly, I think I'm so glad to be facilitating this moment with you. No, because I personally also in our organization, this is where we are now. It's really transitioning to looking at the mission critical positions. Now, although in as much as we can, we would like to keep everybody in the bus, but the challenge for us now is really putting that person on the right seat of the bus. We would still want to keep everybody in the bus. The buzzword for us now is talent maximization, because I don't think if as much as we can, especially for us HR practitioners, retrenchment or redundancy would be our last resort. We know how difficult it is now to lose our jobs, and especially at this time. And I think that's the biggest challenge for us HR practitioners. How do we more or less paano mo hihilutin na hindi masyado ganun kalaki yung impact to our people? So but mostly disruptions are after a crisis or so. For some organizations, they create opportunities, new opportunities. Now, based on your experience in your organization, how can we turn this around? I mean, from our perspective as an organization, how do we turn around these disruptions and create opportunities from the disruptions created by this pandemic?
Again, for me, Michael, yung mindset the mindset of di ba kagaya ng example ko earlier, pandemic, pag tinignan mo parang negative, it's bad news, etc. But if you look at it, there are actually good things that's happening because of the pandemic. And if only we can encourage our employees to see and count their blessings and to see the positives, then maybe that's the start of turning the challenges to opportunities. That's on the individual person's perspective. Now for the business, I'm sure siguro iba-iba yung ating business. So iba-iba din yung magiging strategy. But for example, in our case, we are into healthcare. Syempre nung una we were alarmed because we didn't know how our employees will react. But eventually we were able to turn it to an opportunity by inspiring our people and telling them, hey guys, look, a lot of people need our help. Hindi tayo healthcare professionals, but the people we talk to on the other line are people with diabetes. Yun po kasi yung aming business. And we said, let's help the healthcare professionals manage these patients, and let's do our share by helping others. And I think that has been very, very powerful. Because even up until now, tuwing kakamustahin namin yung aming mga empleyado, they would always say, they find that they're doing something meaningful by simply just doing their work. So if you can just go back and take a look at what is it that your employees are actually doing that extend and goes beyond the four walls of your office, right? And make them realize na, see, you're coming here not just to earn salary. You're actually coming here with a purpose, with a mission, and with something more than just doing your regular day job. I'm sure meron meron at meron kahit anong klaseng business. And again, that's the beautiful thing about it is because as leaders, we will now be forced again to ask ourselves, ano nga ba yung purpose ng kumpanya namin? In the first place, bakit nga ba namin binuo tong organization na to? What was that advocacy and purpose that we had from the very beginning? And probably rally again the people to support that purpose. And that's another example of turning challenges to opportunities, right? If you are into, I don't know, manufacturing or consumer, you know, siguro rethink, tignan natin yung products natin, kanino ba natin siya binibenta right now? Sino bang nagbe-benefit sa kanila? Is there something that we can do to reinvent the products that we have so that more people can actually benefit from it? Minsan natutuwa ako dun sa mga entrepreneurs. Kasi di ba tayo, kung hindi tayo nag-pandemic, malamang nasa malls tayo eh. We buy items that are actually imported, right? Or not Filipino made. Pero ngayon tuwang-tuwa talaga ako sa yung mga nagtitinda, lalo na po ngayon dahil 'di ba may mga plantito, plantita. Ang daming bumibili ng mga abaka na basket, rattan baskets. And I feel happy kasi alam ko na ang nakikinabang noon ay yung mga nasa probinsya na dati siguro hindi pinapansin yung product nila. But right now, a lot of people are actually promoting and supporting those products. So maybe it's time for us to go back and buy local, right? And again, that's turning a challenge to an opportunity. So
Agree.
ang dami-daming pwedeng gawin.
Ma'am, part of your organization's culture, no, I try to do some research and look at the feedbacks online as to your current employees and your previous employees. One really important word that came out is really that culture of malasakit. In our organization, we are promoting a happy culture. So it's like in our case, it's a one happy Rafi. So in your organization, it's really about malasakit. Now, there's a question from one of our attendees. How do you gauge if people are coping well or not? And how do you deal with those who are not able to cope?
Okay. Mahirap. Number one, mahirap mag-gauge. And number two, mahirap mag-support. But we still do it. Okay. We have various programs. So may mga formal programs. So formal programs, for example, yung aming clinic sa office, we made sure na meron din kaming psychologist. So we have a doctor, we have a nurse, and we have a psychologist who is actually visiting the office. And our employees can just set an appointment if they want to meet with her, because we know it's difficult to set appointments with a psychologist in the hospitals or clinics. So that's one. Tapos nung nag-pandemic na, we made sure that our psychologist is able to accommodate appointments by calls. Tapos nakita namin, madami yung gustong siguro for mental health and mental support purposes. So we realized madami. So we also introduced, online medical consultations through our HMO service provider, IntelliCare. Nag-promote IntelliCare.
That's a good promo. Thank you, IntelliCare.
Buti na lang IntelliCare kami.
Oo nga.
But that's true ha, IntelliCare really.
You will have a special token from IntelliCare, I assure you.
No. Pero talaga, they really helped us because sila yung nag-introduce ng aming online consultations, and even the mental health consultations. They really helped us design those new approaches to continuously support our employees. May mga inintroduce din po kami na mga platforms. Fortunately, our organization is very supportive of mental health, and we felt that that's very, very important. So we also partnered with this group here in the Philippines na our employees, including 5 of their dependents, can call that number and talk to either a counselor or a psychologist or just to anyone pag gusto lang talaga nilang may makausap sila. We also invested on wellness programs, puro online, because we realized nung mga nag-work from home, medyo talaga naapektuhan sila emotionally simply because wala silang ibang magawa. Simply because di sila makalabas, they can't do physical exercises, so on and so forth. So, we introduce wellness programs online, and somehow we feel na, it helped our employees. So, maraming programs na ginagawa for the employees, but admittedly, it's not easy because
Yeah.
hindi rin namin ma-measure talaga if it's really helping them.
Yeah.
Pero at least we know and we can say deep inside our hearts that, you know, we've done the best. This is our best work so far, and we feel happy about it.
Yeah.
We also make sure that we guide our supervisors kung paanong tamang makipag-usap. Kasi hindi naman kaya ng HR sa dami, 'di ba? So we always
Okay.
tell our supervisors, kayo ang lagi nilang kausap. So make sure na you know how to talk to them properly. Kamustahin niyo sila. And if you feel na something is not right, you know, ask for help, you know, go to your manager, go to our psychologist, go to HR and share with us kasi baka may pinagdadaanan ng empleyado and maybe we can help the person. So we really just ask everybody to be very observant, to keep reaching out. And to make sure na pagka may meeting, sana hindi puro work. Sana kakamustahin talaga nila o kamusta kayo, kamusta ang family, etc. And you
That
know,
is
funny,
malasakit. That's malasakit.
I would not even call it malasakit. Sa akin kasi parang that's the right thing to do. Right? That's simply the right, that's simply the makatao way of doing it. Now, the malasakit part is kasi po talaga our company, we're into healthcare. So ang customers po talaga namin diabetic patients. So part of the culture really is we tell our employees, particularly our technical support agents, when you are talking to a patient, talagang you have to really be very authentic, sincere, tutulong ka, wag mong mamadaliin yung usapan because you are there for the person, help the person. Fortunately, yung culture na yon, nai-imbibe siya not only in terms of dealing with our patient, but even in terms of dealing with one another. And that's why talagang kami, it's the culture of malasakit that is being, you know, espoused and really very, very powerful. And so far working well for us right now.
Okay, and that's good to know, ma'am. No, I mean, but another question is, you mentioned about people policies, that's something that we should look into as HR practitioners. But I'm not really sure if, like, for example, PMAP National would be in better position to also discuss this to DOLE, no, for example, because there might be some
True.
people policies that we have to change internally, but might be in incongruence or not incongruence with the labor code issues, no, or provision. So maybe how do we draw the line there now?
Oh, you know, that's very true. Like for example na lang yung as simple as overtime pay, right? Kasi
Yeah,
ang sinasabi sa atin is walang offsetting
also,
ha kahit
correct.
na kahit na gusto ng empleyado, no to offsetting. So organizations, they do a lot of workarounds, right? But nowadays, it's really very difficult to manage kasi it's even yung mga empleyado mismo ang nagsasabi na nagtrabaho na po ako ng 12 hours ng Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pwede bang off na ako ng Thursday, Friday. And organizations are willing. They're very, very willing. Kaya lang pagdating na doon sa mga setup ng ating timekeeping system, payroll computations, paano kino-compute, ayun na, nagkakagulo na kasi sasabihin ng ating mga people handling the payroll and compliance na that's not how the law would compute for it or define for it, hindi yan compliant, etc. Right? However, in fairness to the department, I've seen a lot of flexibilities that they've been extending the past few months, and I really hope that this will actually open up their minds as well. Na this is really now the new normal, and we really need to make sure that our policies, our laws, will actually serve as enablers instead of barriers to
Right.
progressing our workplaces in this kind of scenario. And I'm sure PMAP, and I'm pretty sure even PMAP Cebu, we're doing our best to represent our members and letting the department know of ano yung mga nakikita nating sana pwede nang i-realign, di ba? So that's the bigger
Yeah,
realignment,
correct.
realignment even in our national policies and laws. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And another topic that I'd like to discuss with you, ma'am, is actually I know you're more or less in the, I'm not sure if you call it the BPO, but
Mm-hmm.
most of organizations who are not into the ICT industry,
Yeah.
their knee-jerk reaction to the disruption was really the buzzword now is digital transformation.
Mm.
I mean, most organizations, they would feel na medyo, if they could have been more digitally prepared, hindi sana ganun
Yep.
kalaking impact ng disruption. No? But
Mm-mm.
I've read an article in a Harvard review, no, about the digital transformation of an organization, that they should put talent first before technology. Now, as a technology-driven organization, how do you also balance that?
Mm.
Talent over technology, technology over talent, especially during the times of crisis.
Okay. Well, very good question, because our company is really a technology company. We always refer to our company as a biotech medical device manufacturing company, and our product is actually a sensor technology that measures glucose continuously. So kahit you don't need to prick your fingers anymore. You attach the gadget to your body, and through your cell phone or your watch, you can monitor your glucose. So
Wow.
if you're a diabetic patient, alam mo kung high or low, you know how to
Wow.
control, how to manage, even when you're sleeping, because it can set alarms, and even your relatives, you can ask them to receive alarms when your sugar is going up or going down. So technology siya talaga. However, um, our company, and this is one thing I really appreciate about, and I'm not saying this because I'm from Dexcom, but I have to be honest, this is one of the reasons why I joined this organization. It's because it's really very mission driven. The goal is really to use the technology so that we're able to empower diabetic patients to take control of their condition. And therefore, when we onboard our employees, we don't only train them about the tool or the technology, but we always train them, most importantly, on paano mo properly kakausapin ang isang diabetic patient so that we guide them through the use of the tool. And in our experience, technology, if you have the resources, most companies will have access to practically the same or similar technology, but who will deliver the service? It's still the people, right? And it's still the kind of service, the kind of sincere communication, the kind of paano makipag-usap sa customer or sa patient that will matter the most. And that's not driven by any technology or digital tools, but the person themselves, right? So in our case, we do recognize that, and we always make sure that our employees know that they are the most important in the organization, because they're the ones actually helping save lives of our patients. Not only the tool, pero sila mismo.
Yeah, that's good to know. And
Yeah.
ma'am, I think one slide in your presentation also presented that one of your realization is that when it comes to competencies, they're basically the
Mm.
same. You're
Yeah.
talking about speed and the intent.
Mm.
But there's a question from one of our attendees here.
Yep.
Specific, I think this guy is an HR practitioner. So, what competencies does HR nowadays need to develop in order to cope with the current disruption? I mean, as an HR practitioner, I think this is probably one of the most challenging times for us,
Mm.
HR practitioners, right?
Yeah.
Again, the proximity, the connectivity is an issue. Like in our organization, for example, we don't even talk about engagement yet because it's difficult to speak of engagement when connectivity is a problem. So
Mm.
basic is going back to
True.
connectivity. So as an HR practitioner now, especially for the younger professionals, what are the basic and the most important core competencies that you need to develop as a practitioner?
Sige. So I'll answer in a very practical way, yeah, because I'm sure we know already all about the cognitive thinking, agility, innovation, design thinking. We know that already, but I'll be very very practical. Number one, resourcefulness. I think it's very important. Ano to back to basics nga tayo ulit, di ba? We really need to be very, very resourceful. To your point, Michael, we are very dependent on the internet. But not all of our employees have the luxury to actually have very good internet connections. Minsan kahit pati tayo, right? But what can we do, and what is it that we can consider so that we still are able to reach out properly to our people? And I think yung being resourceful and being creative will help because, di ba sabi nila, if there's a will, there's a way. Di ba? And we need to have that kind of thinking na we will not stop thinking for a way because we know that we have a mission to do, and that is to help and support our employees. So sa akin, being resourceful is one. Two, being an authentic leader and being sincere. I think, hindi ko alam kung competency siya, but I think it's very important for us to feel
I agree with you
confident.
there about the being authentic, ma'am. I
Yeah.
completely agree.
You don't need to copy. Nowadays, hindi eh. It will not work. Nowadays, you really just have to be you. And ako talaga, I've always believed that each and every one of us, we were designed and created to be good human beings, right? We just need to be very humble and accept na tayo, simpleng tao, ang gusto lang talaga natin is makatulong at maging mabuti at maging maganda ang lahat for everybody. Let's admit that. But sometimes kasi may pride, may inggit, may, diba? But let's remove all of that. Let's just be sincere and let's focus on helping one another survive this pandemic. So yung pagiging sincere and authentic as a leader, I think is probably a competency in a way na you really have to let go and you really need to tell to yourself na I'm enough. Sapat na ako, and what you see is what you get. This is me, and my intentions are pure, and that's good. That's okay. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to be the most intelligent person in the room, but I'm here willing to help make a difference for the employees, for the people, or even for the communities around us, right? And then the last one is really yung learning on the fly. A lot of new things really we're experiencing right now for the first time. So kung tayo medyo may pride na parang, ay, sandali lang, pag-uusapan pa yan, pag-iisipan pa yan, ay parang hindi maganda, ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. Wala eh. Minsan you really need to be very courageous to say, hindi ko alam, pero sige, let's try doing that. That sounds to be a good idea. Let's do it. And then, kung mali, di mali, fail fast. Diba? Bangon ka agad and pick up ka agad and move forward. Because remember, marami pong empleyado ang tumitingin sa atin at umaasa sa atin as leaders and as HR practitioners. So it's very important that we show them that hindi sa strong, but we are actually firm. Firm in getting back up and moving forward, right? We're not saying na, ay hindi, kami yung malakas, kami sumunod kayo kasi malakas kami. Hindi yun eh, because the more we tell them, again, be authentic, nahihirapan din tayo. Diba? We also go through mental stress. Let's admit it. We all, I'm sure, itong past 6 months, may mga araw na umiyak ka na.
No,
Diba?
correct.
Let's be honest, di ba? Na umiyak tayo na parang ano bang nangyayari, etc. And again, that's being authentic. And that's all right kasi tao tayo eh, di ba? And when we show people that we are also human beings, they will appreciate that. And I think that's what they need right now. To see that we're also vulnerable, but we are firm. Firm to get back up, move forward, and make sure that, we try to make things better for one another.
Wow. So that's basically being resourceful, being authentic, and
Learning
don't
on the
stop
fly.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, ma'am. I think more than ever, as discussed earlier, this is also the time for us to really highlight our significance in the organization. I know that the biggest issue is bringing back the economy, helping the organization stand up again. But as HR practitioners, I know we are on the back end, no, trying to support bringing the people up first before the whole organization. So it's one tough job for all of us, and I'm glad to hear some words of wisdom for esteemed and seasoned HR professional like you, ma'am. I know you just had a heartbreak last February, when Mateo got married. So how is that for being
Happy
the last?
ako.
Okay. So you can
Ashmat believer
okay.
po ako.
Maganda, at least that's good to know.
Talagang pinag-usapan
kasi
natin yan, Michael.
At least for our last question, para naman medyo magaan. So at least I'm pretty sure hindi mo na nasabi kay Mateo yung message mo for the wedding because that was nadali, no? Maybe, kasi
Oo.
he's from Cebu. Maybe we know some people
I
here
know.
who may direct access kay Mateo. Maybe you have a message for him and we can...
Uy, naku, wag iiyak talaga ako, promise. Hindi, walang biro. Totoo to. He opened up his restaurant here in Alabang. I'm from Parañaque.
Yeah.
Okay, so meron siya sa
Yani.
Alabang.
Yani,
My previous organization, SGS, I think most of you know that. May office din kami sa Alabang. So when I left SGS to transfer to a new organization, in 2018, di ba, Mike? In 2018. Talagang sabi nila, alika Michelle, total last day mo, doon tayo sa restaurant ni Mateo, titreat ka namin. Because they know I really, idolized Mateo. Sabi ko, sige na nga, sabi ko, pero balik na ako ng balik dyan, hindi ko siya nakikita. Kasi binabalikan ko po talaga. Pag weekend, sabihin ko talaga sa asawa ko, Daddy, doon tayo kumain para baka abutan natin. So never kong naabutan. Nung last day talaga na yun, nandun siya. So nung una, hindi ko alam. Sabi lang nung kasama ko, Michelle, nandiyan si Mateo. Sabi ko, naku, wag niyo akong binibiro, ganyan. Tapos alam mo talaga, lumapit siya. Paglapit talaga niya, alam mo, naiyak ako. For some reason, talagang hindi ko din alam, hindi ko siya ma-explain na naiyak ako, nakatingin ako sa kanya, umiiyak ako, tapos sumatawa siya sa akin. Tapos sabi na lang nila, sige na, picture. So nag-picture kami talaga. But looking back, sabi ko talaga sa kanila, ganun pala yung nararamdaman ng mga fans. Kasi minsan nakikita mo sila sa TV, di ba, na parang, ba't naman umiyak? Oh, alam mo, hindi ko talaga siya ma-explain. Basta na lang naiyak ako sa tuwa. And he was so nice na talagang he was there, nagpicture pa siya, ganyan. So nakakatuwa. Again, tao lang, di ba?
Yeah, correct. That's being authentic. That's why I'm bringing this up. No, this is, somebody who talked about these concepts being malasakit and all that. Then suddenly, pag Mateo, you become more human. That's easier for us to relate.
So sa mga nakakakilala po kay Mateo dyan, at saka Sarah Geronimo, ay nako, you will make me very, very happy.
I'm just glad that you're not heartbroken.
Ay, hindi. Hindi
probably we can talk about helping the mother for the mental health concerns of the mother siguro no ni Sarah. So maybe we can extend some help. We can ask Telecare, ma'am, to send some help.
Uy, wag na ganyan. Okay lang yan. Ganyan talaga ang mga ina.
Ang mga nanay.
Mahal na mahal lang niya ang kanyang mahal na mahal lang niya ang kanyang anak. So,
Spoken
let's
like
understand.
a true ashmat, ha?
Pero ang ganda ng toko, tapos ashmat talaga yung ating ending.
Yan ang magandang ending doon. Humanizing the leader. Man, you're talking about being authentic, and I really appreciate that. And we're friends in Facebook, so that's one thing that would really make me laugh. You being so fanatic about Mateo, but I have been listening to
binubuko mo talaga ako. Nagbablush ako dito. Yeah, but thank you so much.
Anyways,
I always enjoy.
Thank you for this afternoon. It was indeed a very fruitful discussion. I'm personally, I learned a lot from you. I have heard you talk how many times now, but every time you share your experiences, it gives us some more inspiration to really be truthful, no, to what we do in human resources, and it's really putting people first in everything that we do, and then that's the essence. That's the core essence of our jobs in the organization. And I think this is a good message to all practitioners that at the end of it all, let's not forget that our main responsibilities are people, and the things that you shared are basically learnings that we can apply, and we can also emulate, no, to be better at what we do as HR, especially that we have young HR practitioners listening to us now.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, ma'am, on behalf of PMAP CEBU, thank you very much for this time.
Salamat din po. Salamat for always inviting me. And I really miss going there.
Yeah, when things allow, when things permit.
Things are better, yes. Salamat, thank you.
Come here and meet all of these participants, now fans, in person. So with that, ma'am, again, I'd like to thank you. But to formally give our thank you, no, our token of appreciation is basically our president for PMAP CEBU 2020, Miss Grace Iligan. Ma'am Grace, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Sir Mike. Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon once again. I was so serious, tapos listening to the talk, I was really moved because, Ma'am Michelle, we are also in people's business. So I was really paying attention from start to end, and it's like a validation if we were really doing things right. At biglang nagbago yung mood. Yung napag-usapan si Gudicelli.
Si
but
Michael kasi.
but we can do something more pag wala ng pandemic, because I know the mother of his mother, yung ninang ko sa kasal, best friend sila, so we can arrange
Oh, see?
another meeting.
President Grace, tatandaan ko yan.
Yes, I can really arrange something for you and Botticelli. Kasi best friend talaga yung nanay niya at saka yung mama niya.
Pinagpapawisan po ako. Okay na.
After the pandemic, I owe you that one. Anyway, Michelle, in behalf of PMAP Cebu, thank you so much. It's really an honor to have you here this afternoon. I think ang dami naming natutunan from start to end. So touching and so moving yung lahat ng discussion. And we will try our best also kasi everybody is saying na nobody will come up from this pandemic untouched. So with everything that we learned this afternoon, hopefully we can help minimize man lang the pain na pinag-experience ng mga tao, are not only to our workers but also to the other people na we coexist. So again, thank you. And in behalf of PMAP, I also want to give this virtual certificate. PMAP Cebu would like to give this virtual certificate to you, Ma'am Michelle Cordero Garcia, CIHRM, for this insightful conduct as a speaker to this webinar, Disruption and Organizational Alignment After the Crisis, to PMAP Cebu members and to other participants. Given this September 18, 2020, signed by yours truly, Grace Iligan, 2020 PMAP Cebu President. Ma'am,
Thank you
thank
po.
you so much.
Salamat. Maraming salamat din po, President Grace. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ma'am Michelle.
And of course, Sir Mike, I also want to give you this virtual certificate for your, what you call this one, not only masterful, very interactive afternoon. You're not only acting as ordinary host, but you have done so many great things this afternoon. So thank you, Sir Mike, for your masterful facilitation in this webinar. Titled Disruption and Organizational Alignment After Crisis, given to our PMAP members and to other participants this September 18, 2020, signed by yours truly, Grace Iligan, 2020 PMAP Cebu President. Sir Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma'am Grace. Pwede siguro ko na ipa-barter og pito ka manok, no?
Yes, we can start from this one. Pwede na din nato i-barter. Pito ka manok plus
Manok siguro.
face mask.
Ma'am, thank you very much. The honor is mine.
Okay, thank you. Sir Mike, just one line lang ha.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you lang to the Avengers who is also working behind. To Sir JM, our partner of IntelliCare, our technical host, and to Sir Neil, our technical director, and of course, with also Ma'am Ann, though she's not here this afternoon, but she's the one who prepared all the continuity slides, and Miss Odette Kambonga, who's also our slide master, and Ma'am Pinky, our IT support, and Sir Cesar Ayan Real, who's working as our chat box responder for this afternoon. So to the rest of the team, thank you, Avengers. It's always great to work with you. And to the rest of the, also I would like to take this opportunity na lang to say thank you also to the rest of the attendees. So you please continue to support us, and we also hope to see you during the regional conference. Back to you, Sir Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma'am Grace. And again, PMAP Cebu is inviting everyone to please like us or follow us on our social media accounts, on our Facebook account, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, no? And of course, our email address is there. So please, thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and I hope you had a fruitful afternoon. I'm sure I did, no? And again, on behalf of PMAP Cebu, this is all in our quest to serve the membership better. And this particular activity this afternoon is a prequel, no, to our regional conference that will happen on October 7 to 9. So please do register, and we look forward to see everyone there. And before we end this afternoon session, before I formally say goodbye, go ahead, Miss O. I'm done. Ciao, everyone. Bye.
Today we take upon ourselves the challenge of responding to the needs and realize the vision that we've made.
Transforming human capital, reaching out, embracing all that's new. It's the dawn of a boundless age. It is a quest
To rise above the rest, empowered by our drive to succeed among the best. Our customers come first, great service all the way. Let PMAP show us how. Convergence dissolves complexities, initiatives that lead to strengthen paths and build team confidence.
communication at the core, unlocking all potentials to become the finest that we can be. It is a quest
To rise above the rest, empowered by our drive to succeed among the best. Our customers come first, great service all the way. Let PMAP show us how. It is a quest to rise above the rest, empowered by our drive to succeed among the best. Our customers come first, great service all the way. Let PMAP show us how to rise above the rest, empowered by our drive to succeed